You are born in a longhouse. Your first lullaby is smoke. Your first teacher is cold. The roof leaks. The fire never truly dies. People sleep like stacked logs. Someone snores, someone coughs, someone argues in their dreams. Outside, winter presses its forehead against the walls like a tax collector who never goes home. Surviving here is already a feat. Weakness doesn't get a second chance. The sea takes some, fever takes others, the snow takes the rest. Nobody calls it tragedy. They call it how it is, because naming it anything else would imply the world owes you fairness. You learn early. The North is not cruel. The North is simply honest. You stand barefoot on packed snow because the older boys tell you to, because your father doesn't stop them, because stopping them would teach you comfort, and comfort makes men soft, and soft men become graves. Your toes go numb, then they burn, then they go numb again. You grit your teeth and keep breathing. This is your first victory, not dying. Your name is Carl, a free man's name, a free man's burden. Free means you're not someone's property. It also means nobody is responsible for you. You plow rock-hard soil until your shoulders feel like they were carved from pain. You fish until your hands crack and bleed. You split wood until you can't remember what it feels like to have fingers that aren't stiff. Meanwhile, the Jarl drinks mead and talks about honor. Honor is easier when other people do the work. But the sea keeps whispering, not softly, not kindly, like a drum under your ribs. Old men talk about the West as if it's a rumor you can steal. They say across the water there are churches where gold sits out in the open. They say monks keep treasure like children leave toys on the floor. They say the land is green, the sheep are fat, and the people pray instead of fighting. Gold that just waits. You try to ignore it. You have a roof to fix, a fence to mend, a winter to survive. But hunger isn't only in the belly. Sometimes it's in the skull. So you sell what you can. You borrow what you must. You trade tomorrow for a chance at something bigger than farm, freeze, die. Now you prepare your kit, not for adventure, for violence. First, a helmet, plain iron, no horns. Where are the horns? On cows. Horns in battle are handles, something an enemy can grab when they want to twist your head the wrong way. You want steel, not decoration. Chainmail costs a fortune. You are not a jarl. You can't buy a walking bank vault. So you wear a padded jacket, layers of linen and wool stitched tight. A poor man's armor, but it works. It catches glancing blows. It gives you one more heartbeat to stay alive. A shield of linden wood, light and forgiving, soft enough that an axe bites into it and sticks for a moment. That moment is the difference between you and dead you. And your main tool, an axe. An axe builds your home and ends other people's lives. Cheap, practical, honest. Swords are status. Axes are reality. A sword? Forget it. A good sword costs like a herd of cows. Swords are for jarls, kings, and very lucky looters. You do have a sakes, a long knife on your belt. It cuts rope, it cuts meat. In a tight crush of bodies, it cuts throats. It is the argument you can always afford. People call you a barbarian. Surprise. You do wash, though, more than your enemies expect. You comb your hair. You care about lice. A comb is your most useful device. Image matters. Fear starts with looking like you don't fear anything. Your travel food is dried fish, hard as stone. To eat it, you need teeth like a troll. You chew anyway. You always chew. Then comes the ship. The longship is not just wood, It is a trick you play on the ocean. Planks overlap like scales. The hull flexes instead of breaking. It sits shallow in the water, so you can slide into rivers and pull up onto beaches like a predator crawling onto land. It is technology disguised as simplicity. You push off. The village shrinks behind you. Smoke becomes a thin gray thread. Home turns into an idea. Your wife hands you a cloak. No tears. Northern women don't waste water. Her look says everything. Bring back wealth, or don't come back broken. Wind comes and goes when it feels like it. When it vanishes, the oars come out. Row, row, row. 10 hours, 12, more. Your back burns, your palms split, blisters tear open and become wet pain that never heals, because there is no rest, only less work. No compass, no reliable map. You read the sky, the birds, the color of the water. One mistake from the helmsman and you become fish food with a resume. At night, you sleep damp, you wake damp, you dream damp. Salt lives in your clothes and in your mouth. Men vomit. Men laugh at the vomiting until they vomit too. The sea doesn't care. The sea never cares. Then fog breaks and land rises, soft green like a lie. England, a coastline that doesn't look like it wants to kill you. Fields that don't fight the farmer. Sheep that practically volunteer. And there, a monastery. Stone and quiet. Men in robes moving like shadows. No walls worth mentioning. No warriors in sight. You almost feel insulted, like they don't understand what kind of world they live in. You hit the shore in freezing water. It bites your legs. Heavy gear tries to drag you down. If you stumble, your armor becomes your anchor. You keep moving. This is the moment fear tries to negotiate. You refuse the meeting. The monks don't run at first. They pray. To you, that's strange. Does their god block axes? Let's test the theory. The church door holds for a breath. Your axe does not. Wood explodes into splinters. The sound is loud, ugly, satisfying, a boundary being erased. Inside, gold, silver, bright things that don't belong in a world with winter. Cups, candlesticks, plates on holy pictures. You rip the metal from icons like you're peeling skin from a fruit. God won't mind. He already has plenty. You can't read their book, so you do the practical thing. You take the cover. Then the berserker charges in. You thought a berserker was a heroic monster from stories. No, he's a drugged man with a cracked mind. His eyes are wide and empty. Foam gathers at his mouth. His body shakes like a bow under too much tension. Pain can't reach him, so neither can reason. He swings at anything that moves. Enemy, friend, goat, wall. Bravery is useful. Uncontrolled madness is dangerous. You give him space. Everyone does. Now locals arrive, Christians with pitchforks, clubs, lids ripped off barrels. Their leader looks like he was elected by panic. Cute. The meat walks itself to the knife. You lock shields, shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping, a wall that breathes. For a moment, you are not Carl. You are a piece of a larger beast. Impact. This is not poetry. It's not clean. It's a rush hour crowd with weapons. You smell sweat, garlic breath, fear. You hear wood crack, men grunt, someone scream like a pig. You hook the top edge of an enemy's shield with the beard of your axe and yank down. His guard opens. Your friend's spear finds it. Teamwork, the original technology. A spear scratches your arm, just a line. You almost laugh. Don't laugh. A scratch kills more surely than a heroic wound. Dirt on iron, infection, fever, a slow death that doesn't care how brave you were. The battlefield is honest, but bacteria are cruel comedians. The monastery burns. Black smoke climbs into the sky, visible for miles. A message.
Here is weakness, here is profit, come quickly. You take captives, men, women, children. Now they are thralls, living merchandise. A person is wealth that walks, works, breeds, can be traded, can be used as a leash on someone else. Ugly arithmetic, effective. You pack the ship like it's a puzzle. Chests, livestock, captives, sacks of hacked metal. It's Tetris, 9th century edition. Overload and you sink. Physics argues with greed. Physics usually wins. You drink ale from church cups. It tastes like victory and something metallic you don't name. Then adrenaline fades and the body sends the bill. You stitch your wound with a needle and deer sinew. No clean alcohol, no mercy, just moss, spit, and pain. You bite down, you do not scream. Men who scream become stories told with laughter. You leave before kings can gather armies. Speed is your shield, the sea is your road. Home returns as a dark line on the horizon. People swarm the ship like gulls. They stare at your loot as if it's proof you're favored by the gods. The Jarl takes his share first, half, sometimes more. Power collects wealth the way snow collects dead leaves.
You get silver cut into pieces, a captive, maybe a better cow, a better seat near the fire. Is it fair? No. Say that to the Jarl's axe. Women look at you differently now, not tenderly, calculatingly. You are a man who returns with weight in his hands. Then winter closes the world again. The great warrior becomes a farmer. You mend roofs, clean stalls, chop wood. The circle closes and boredom becomes a new enemy. Boredom makes men stupid, and stupidity gets you killed faster than enemies. You don't count coins, you weigh metal. You chop silver into chunks, hack silver. Honest weight, honest value. Your economy runs on scales, not faces. Thralls do much of the work. They shear sheep, grind grain, carry water. Your wealth is built on other people's backs. You don't call it evil, you call it how things are. That's how most cruelty survives, by hiding inside normal. Long nights stretch like the sea. You play Hnefatafel, the Viking chess. A king in a trap, pieces dying to buy space. Strategy in miniature, life in miniature. You are not lawless, you have law. You have the thing. Free men gather, they argue, they insult, they swear oaths. Most disputes end with words, because words are cheaper than funerals. But if words fail, homegang, a duel on a hide. Step outside the boundary and you lose. Simple, brutal. Better than endless feuds, though feuds happen anyway, because pride is cheaper than peace. You sacrifice to the gods because randomness terrifies you. Bloat, blood, smoke, offerings in a sacred grove, horses, dogs, what you can spare. Odin wants payment, Thor wants respect. You want the universe to notice you in a good mood. The old men say your fate was already spun. You will die tomorrow or at 80, it's written. This belief is a shield, too. If death is scheduled, fear becomes pointless. England grows tired of being soft. Monasteries get stone walls. Knights show up in metal that laughs at your axe. The easy days fade. History upgrades its defenses. So you look east. There are rivers instead of seas, forests instead of cliffs, cities that feel like miracles. Gardariki, lands of towns. You travel by waterways, then drag the ship over logs when rapids bite. Sailors become haulers, sweating like beasts. The steppe opens, a flat world where horsemen move like wind.
Pechenegs watch you. They can shoot from horseback and never let you touch them. On a river, you are a target at a training range. You trade furs, amber, weapons, and people. Slavic girls are prized in southern markets. Living gold, they call it. You swallow the sourness in your throat and call it business. Business is another god. Then you see Miklagard, Constantinople, a city bigger than your whole country, stacked in stone and glitter. Golden domes hurt your eyes. Markets roar. Walls loom like mountains. The emperor pays well for northern men who don't ask questions. You join the Varangian Guard, elite bodyguards with big axes and bigger reputations. The Greeks have magic, a weapon that burns on water. Ships turning into floating torches. You watch fleets die in minutes and realize power isn't just muscle. Sometimes it's knowledge. Bored on duty, you carve your name in runes on marble. A small act of immortality. Halfdan was here. Karl, too. Now the stone knows you existed. You eat better. You wear silk. You forget the taste of rotten fish. Then the north calls you back, the way the sea always does, not kindly, but firmly. You return heavy with silver and stories. You buy land. You buy loyalty. You buy the right to speak and be listened to. You file your teeth and rub charcoal in the grooves. It's fashion among hard men. It makes you look like a wolf wearing a smile. It also makes enemies hesitate. Hesitation is valuable. But the 9th century isn't done with you. Now comes something bigger than raiding. 865, the great heathen army. Not a crew, an avalanche. Thousands of men who are done being visitors. This time, you don't come to steal, you come to take. Ivar the Boneless leads. A cripple? No, a mind like a blade. They carry him on a shield, but his strategy walks for him. A king killed Ragnar, they say, threw him into a snake pit. Bad idea. Piglets squeal when they chew an old boar, and his sons hear it. You catch King Aela. Punishment becomes a message. Cruelty becomes language. You don't dwell on the details. You just remember the lesson. Fear is a weapon, and weapons spread.
York falls. Now it's your week. Mud to the knees, but silver flows. Trade grows behind the edge of the axe. Conquest isn't only burning, it's building a machine that keeps paying. Franks pay you to leave. Danegeld, the most profitable diplomacy ever invented. 6,000 pounds of silver for a good buy. Easier than fighting. The second time they refuse, you besiege. Paris, a year under walls. Disease kills more men than swords. War is not mostly battle, it's waiting, hunger, diarrhea, rotten water, and prayers that aren't answered. In England, Alfred fights back. He uses swamps and patience. He makes you bleed for every step. You learn something humiliating. You are not unstoppable. The world doesn't hand you victory just because you rode far. To survive, leaders bend. A king takes baptism. A Viking name becomes a Christian one. Politics eats pride. You wear a cross for the treaty. Under your shirt, you keep Thor's hammer, just in case. You can never have too many gods when the future is uncertain. You get land, the Danelaw, half of England marked by your presence. Farmers become settlers, raiders become lords. The axe learns paperwork. Meanwhile, at home, life keeps its quiet jokes. You bleach your hair with lye soap if you're not blonde enough. Fashion and hygiene in one dangerous paste. Your hair lightens, lice die. Sometimes your scalp burns like you offended a spirit.
Beauty hurts, so does everything else. There's an old battlefield trick, onion soup. If a man's belly wound smells like onions, his guts are open, then he's already dead, just delayed. Medicine, Viking edition. At home, the keys hang on your wife's belt. That is power. She controls stores, food, household wealth. She can divorce you publicly, call witnesses, say, "I'm leaving," take her dowry and walk away. You may swing an axe outside, but inside she runs the longhouse. Welcome to northern reality. Your son plays with wooden weapons, a toy sword, a toy hammer. At 12, they stop being toys. At 12, he becomes what you became, a young man expected to do adult violence because the world doesn't wait for maturity. You kill a neighbor over a stolen goat. Now his son will want your blood. Your son will want his. Feuds are family traditions that taste like grief. Don't want to die? Pay weregild, man price. Everything has a price. A thrall is cheap. A free man is expensive. Your society is brutal, but it does keep a ledger. Worst punishment is outlawry. You are outside the law. Anyone can kill you and take your boots. You become a forest man, hunted, half ghost. And you fear ghosts too. Draugr stories crawl through winter nights, dead men walking, jealous of breath. Some cut heads off corpses just to be safe. Superstition is cheaper than regret. You ski in winter. You hunt fast on snow. You fight faster than horses can run. The North has its own kind of elegance, survival turned into skill. You drink mead not for the taste, but for forgetting. For a few hours, the cold feels less like a knife in the lungs, but fear still sits under laughter. Men don't talk about it. They call it being ready. If you don't die in battle, you don't enter the famous hall. That's the rule. So old men chase violent deaths on purpose, hunt bears with knives, provoke youths, pick fights they can't win, anything to avoid straw death, dying in bed like a coughing animal. Most still die in bed. They cough blood into straw and stare at the rafters, furious that the world refuses to give them a heroic ending. As years pass, ships grow bigger, kings grow stronger, independent sea kings fade. Now you serve someone, whether you admit it or not. A smith casts Thor's hammer in one mold and a cross in another. Money doesn't care about theology. Harold Bluetooth, great marketer, sells a new order. Where jarls used to pay you for loyalty, now a king demands taxes from you. The old freedom dies quietly, like embers under ash. Rollo gets land in Frankish territory. Normandy is born. A century later, his descendants speak French, wear heavy armor, and call themselves knights, Vikings in better branding. 991, Malden. Anglo-Saxons meet you as equals. You win, but you pay in blood. Then England pays again. Danegeld returns. The racket becomes tradition. Later, they hire you to defend them from other Vikings. You fight your own kind for English silver. History is a snake eating its tail. Canute rises, a Viking on England's throne.
Yesterday, you were pirates. Today, you are an empire. Even an emperor cannot command the sea. Canute demonstrates this by trying to order the tide to stop. It doesn't. A lesson carved in wet sand. Power has limits. Warships become floating fortresses, great serpents, big dragons of wood, built for royal sea battles. At Svolder, kings lash ships together into one giant platform and turn the sea into a slaughterhouse. It's not naval tactics, it's a brawl on boards over dark water. Christian stones replace burial mounds. Instead of a burning ship, you get a rune stone by the road.
Victoria raised this for his father. Simple, quiet, permanent. Sacred groves are cut down, idols are burned. Odin does not throw lightning. Old gods don't protest, they simply leave, like guests who realize the party changed. Then comes the final chapter people remember, 1066. The English king dies. 3 wolves stare at the throne. A Saxon, a Norman, and your king, Harold Hardrada. Hardrada drives you into the last great gamble. 300 years after the first raids, you return for the ending. You land in the north, you smash local earls, York falls again. For a moment, it feels like the old days, easy, fast, glorious. Then you relax. You leave armor behind in the heat. You stand on a bridge like the world still fears you. The Saxon army arrives faster than expected. The trap snaps shut. A single berserker holds the bridge, swinging an axe like a gate of death. He kills dozens because nobody wants to be the next lesson. Then an Englishman floats under the bridge in a barrel and thrusts a spear upward. Not heroic, effective. The berserker falls, and the myth breaks. Harold Hardrada is hit by an arrow in the throat. He dies choking, not as a legend, but as a man. You came with hundreds of ships. You leave with a few dozen. The Viking Age is declared over. Saxons celebrate briefly, then Normans arrive and cut them down. Vikings 2.0 win. Same blood, different language, heavier armor, better paperwork. The North takes its due anyway. You want to be remembered? Congratulations. Your descendants are everywhere. Words you speak travel into other tongues. Towns you founded become cities. Trade posts become capitals. Dublin, York, Kiev, Novgorod. Vikings didn't only burn, they built. Women in your world had more rights than many in Europe. Property, divorce, authority. Not because your society is gentle, because survival requires competence, and competence doesn't care about gender. You create a trade network that stretches absurdly far, from Greenland to Baghdad. Globalization before anyone had the word. Later, Iceland's Althing becomes one of the earliest parliaments. Men with axes arguing into something like democracy. Greenland dies out when climate cools and ships stop coming. People eat their dogs, then they vanish. The world is always ready to erase you. And one more thing, horns. You never wore horned helmets. That was invented by costume designers centuries later. Real war has no room for theatrical handles. So what happens to you? If you survive, you go back to the farm. You raise grandchildren. You tell stories by the fire. You die in bed, coughing blood into straw, angry at the ceiling. No Valhalla? Maybe not. Valhalla is a VIP club for the famous dead. Most go somewhere cold and boring. Eternity for ordinary men. But your blood continues. That is your real immortality. Your skeleton ends up in a museum. Your spine is worn down by oars. Your teeth are rotted. That's the price of sea romance. And one day, you become pop culture. A comic book Thor with shiny muscles and jokes. If a real Viking saw that clown, he'd probably hit him with an axe and complain about the lack of practicality. Still, your horizon expanded the world. Iceland, Greenland, Vinland. You made the map bigger. You conquered not with swords, but with genes. In millions of people, your blood still runs. You were a hard killer, yes, but in a world of sheep, you were a wolf. And that, whether you like it or not, is what history remembers. You are a Viking, and this was your whole life.